The 2025 Subaru WRX TS looks like the rally-bred monster fans have been waiting for. Aggressive styling, performance upgrades, and that iconic badge. But here's the twist. Some of the changes Subaru made this year have left die-hard enthusiasts scratching their heads. Is this really an evolution of the WRX spirit, or a step in the wrong direction? Stick around, because by the end of this review, you'll know if the new WRX TS deserves a spot in your driveway or if Subaru just broke its own legend.
The 2025 Subaru WRX TS is here, and at first glance, it feels like Subaru is reminding us why this car has always stood out. For decades, the WRX has carried a reputation as the everyday performance machine, affordable, practical, but with enough bite to make you smile on a twisty road. The new TS trim takes that formula and gives it a sharper edge, aimed at drivers who want a sportier feel without stepping into full STI territory.
What makes this launch interesting is where Subaru has chosen to focus. Instead of chasing bigger horsepower numbers or radical design changes, the TS looks to fine-tune what's already there. But is that enough in today's market, where competitors are pushing harder than ever? In just a moment, we'll dive into the details that could make or break the new WRX TS.
From the outside, the car immediately makes a statement. Subaru hasn't reinvented the WRX silhouette, but the TS trim sharpens it in subtle ways. The aggressive front bumper, darkened accents, and unique badging signal that this isn't your standard WRX. The wheels, 19-inch alloys wrapped in performance rubber, sit flush and purposeful, giving the car a wider stance on the road. Even at a stoplight, it looks like it's itching to move. Step inside, and the atmosphere shifts. Subaru has always been about function first, but the TS aims to inject a touch more polish. The ultra-suede trimmed Recaro seats immediately catch your eye, offering bolstering that hugs you without squeezing too tight. Blue stitching across the dashboard and doors ties the cabin to Subaru's performance lineage. The tech remains straightforward. An 11.6-inch touchscreen takes center stage, paired with wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. It's not the flashiest interior in the segment, but it's clean, driver-focused, and built for people who actually care about being behind the wheel. But where the TS really tries to separate itself is under the skin. It still carries Subaru's 2.4-liter turbocharged flat 4, putting out 271 horsepower and 258 pound-feet of torque, numbers that haven't changed from the standard WRX. That might raise eyebrows, and we'll get to that in a moment.
What's different here is the suspension tuning. The WRX TS borrows the adaptive dampers previously exclusive to the GT trim, giving drivers the ability to switch between comfort and sportier settings. On paper, that sounds like a small tweak. On the road, it could be the difference between a car that feels like a daily driver and one that's genuinely rewarding on a canyon run. Safety and convenience haven't been ignored either. Subaru's EyeSight Driver Assist suite is included, adding adaptive cruise control, lane centering, and pre-collision braking. Purists may roll their eyes at the tech, but for buyers who want a car that can serve both as a weekend toy and a commuter, these features matter more than ever.
Of course, not everything is perfect. While the suspension upgrades promise sharper handling, the lack of any power bump might leave some enthusiasts underwhelmed. Competitors like the Honda Civic Type R and Hyundai Elantra N have leaned into more aggressive performance packages. Subaru's approach feels more evolutionary than revolutionary, and depending on your expectations, that could either be smart refinement or a missed opportunity. So the big question is this: do these upgrades make the WRX TS feel like a proper step up, or is it simply a dressed-up version of what we've already seen? Keep watching, because when we get into the highlights and drawbacks, there are a few surprises, especially when you factor in price.
And here's where everything comes to a head. The moment you stop looking at the brochure and actually feel what the 2025 Subaru WRX TS is made of. Drop the car into sport mode, and suddenly, the suspension tightens, the steering sharpens, and the WRX TS comes alive in a way the standard model just can't match. On a sweeping back road, every input feels more precise. The chassis stays planted through corners, the adaptive dampers soaking up bumps without sacrificing grip. It's the kind of balance that makes you want to keep driving long after your destination.
But here's the surprise. For all that dynamic confidence, the engine hasn't changed. Push the throttle, and you're met with the same 271 horsepower you'd find in the base WRX. It's quick, yes, but against rivals like the Civic Type R or Elantra N, it doesn't deliver that gut-punch acceleration you might expect from a special trim. Some drivers will see that as Subaru playing it safe. Others might call it a missed chance to reclaim the edge this car once owned.
Still, the payoff is real when you realize what Subaru has prioritized. The WRX TS isn't chasing headline numbers, it's about refinement. It's about taking the bones of an already capable sports sedan and dialing in the details that matter most to people who actually drive these cars every day. Whether that's a smart move or a disappointment depends entirely on what you value more: raw power or a car that feels sharper and more polished in every corner. And that's the turning point. Is the WRX TS the subtle upgrade enthusiasts didn't know they needed, or proof that Subaru has lost its appetite for risk? Let's break down the highlights and drawbacks before we reach the final verdict.
So where does that leave the 2025 Subaru WRX TS? At its core, this is still very much a WRX, practical enough to live with every day, yet engaging enough to make a Sunday drive something you look forward to. The big win here is refinement. Subaru's decision to add adaptive dampers and sport-tuned suspension makes the TS feel tighter, more responsive, and more rewarding than the standard model. Pair that with subtle design upgrades and a cabin that finally feels a little more special, and you've got a trim that stands out without straying from the WRX roots. But the trade-off is clear. There's no extra horsepower, no dramatic leap forward in performance, and for some enthusiasts, that will sting. Rivals like the Civic Type R and Elantra N push the envelope with power and track-ready aggression, while the WRX TS takes a more cautious approach. That makes it less of a headline grabber, but potentially more of a real-world companion. If you're someone who values sharp handling, daily comfort, and Subaru's all-weather confidence, the WRX TS will probably hit the sweet spot. It's not a car that tries to be everything, but it's a car that knows exactly what it is. On the other hand, if you're chasing raw thrills, lap times, or bragging rights, you may find yourself looking elsewhere.
In the bigger picture, the WRX TS shows where Subaru is steering its performance cars, toward refinement and usability rather than raw shock value. Whether that's the right move depends on how the market responds, but one thing's certain, the WRX remains a car people will always have strong opinions about. So what do you think? Did Subaru make the right call with the 2025 WRX TS, or did they play it too safe? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I want to hear your take. And if this breakdown helped you out, don't forget to like the video, hit subscribe, and join us for more honest reviews of the cars shaping the roads ahead.